Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining me for a live stream demo of Fusion 360. I told everyone I was going to do this in Gravity Sketch. However, after speaking to a number of you in the one-on-ones, it seems like a number of you are interested in working in Fusion 360. I've really taken to Fusion 360 in the last few months with my product design work, my client work, because it's very similar in simplicity to using Speedform, which was phased out by Alias last year. So it's really I think the interface is simple. It's a great example of working in polygons, but also goes beyond that into solid modeling and NURBS modeling as well. But anyway, we're going to focus on really learning the basics of polygon modeling. So everything I teach here will translate into Gravity Sketch. At least in principle, it will translate into Blender, into Maya, Speedform, Alias, subdivisional modeling. The principles are basically the same. So without further ado, I'm going to start on the demo. So as you know, I've been doing a series of sketching demonstrations on this sort of autonomous rideshare interior with a focus on this post-COVID-19 world where people are only riding in groups of 1 or 2 people. The interior is meant to be as free of gaps and margins as possible in order to keep it clean, easily cleanable. The seat is suspended off the floor, so you can clean under the floor. All of the control is done with your own device. So the screen in front of you is just a display only. It's just for information and entertainment. And ingress egress is really open and easy, touch free. And all of the control of the vehicles through your own personal device. So that's really the concept. So I'm going to start laying that out in 3D. And what the rendering demo I did last week, which is on the right here, this is really a step that I would not take with what I know now of 3D. I would normally just take the pencil sketch and go directly into 3D, and then generate renderings from there. And so I'm going to take you through that process. So, given that this is an interior-focused project, at least my demo project is, I'm really going to be building everything around the occupant, around a human being. I found this mannequin at grabcad.com. It's a great place to find CAD models of various things that people have already created, so you don't have to recreate them. And so I'm going to start by just going through the basics of the Fusion 360 interface. So just in terms of tumbling the environment. You can go into the preferences. So if you go up to your name here, and you go to preferences in the upper right corner, okay, you'll see a dialog box here, and under I believe it is the well, anyway, there's various oh yeah, here it is. Pan, zoom, and orbit shortcuts. And you can see I have it set to alias. Alias is something I'm very used to. So, holding the Shift and Alt key while you hold the left mouse button, that's normally how you rotate and zoom and orbit in alias. So you can set it to, Fusion has its own setting, which is very different than alias. If you're used to Inventor, if you're used to SolidWorks, if you're used to Tinkercad, they have settings for that as well. But I have it set to alias. As far as moving around, I hold the Shift Alt key and the left mouse button I can rotate. With the right mouse button I can zoom in and out, and with the middle mouse button using the wheel I can also zoom in and out. But if I hold the wheel, press it as a button, I can pan. So just like an alias. So I have it set to the alias setting. I like that a lot. I'm used to it. I've been using alias for over 20 years. So there's also this little cube on the upper right of the screen. You can also drag that cube to move around, and if you're using a touch screen, you can actually use your finger to move the screen around. You can also click on right, front, top. If you click on that, it'll go over to that view. And if you open the dialog box here, you'll see I have it set to perspective with ortho faces. So meaning when I go to one of these views, right view, front view, top view, it's actually showing you an orthographic view, not a perspective view. But then as soon as you rotate back into a perspective, it's back in, it's actually giving you foreshortening and all of that. So as you can see, I've imported images, my sketches, as background images, and that's just to give me some reference. I will show you once I start building the interior. I'll show you how to do that, how to import an image into Fusion 360. So that's just to get you the basics of using Fusion 360 if you've never used it before. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this mannequin and put him in a sitting position, as if he were sitting in the vehicle. You can see on the left side of the screen here, it's called the browser. All of the elements, we call them bodies. All of the objects that make up this mannequin are separate bodies that you can select and move accordingly. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to take the whole thing. I'm going to select everything here, and under Modify, I'm going to move. Okay, and as soon as you start to move, you see there's this gimbal here. There's these arrows and these planes, and there's this thing here. So I'm going to take this this rotator here, and I'm just going to drag it and set him back to where his back angle would be in a seated position, and hit OK. Then I'm going to grab the legs and feet. So legs, foot, foot. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab the move function here. I'm just going to rotate those. You can see they're not positioned correctly, so I'm just going to rotate them till the thighs are where they should be. And then you can see there's this this little square here. This is if you drag this, it will move around freely in that plane. In that plane, so you can see I'm moving it around, and it's moving in that plane. So I'm just going to move the legs back to where they should be. Then I'm going to grab the lower legs and feet. Okay, so hit OK first. I'm going to grab the lower legs and feet. Okay, and then I'm going to hit the. Oh, by the way, the right mouse click opens this shortcut menu. So I'm going to hit. Move copy, rotate the legs, try to put him in a comfortable position here, and then move him along that plane there. Hit OK, and let's just see what we got here. So he's starting to look pretty comfortable. Maybe I'll take the left leg and it looks like the feet aren't quite aligned here, so left leg, left leg, left foot. There we go. Okay, so we're just gonna move that. You can see now that gimbal that I showed you in any view, you can see it's right there. So I can I don't even have to be in a direct side view to choose which axis I want to rotate. So I'm just going to move that, so now his legs are a little more parallel. Okay, and then I'm just going to take the forearms, the arms and the hands. So arm, the right forearm, the left forearm, and let's see, do I have the other hand? No, I don't have the other hand. The right hand, okay. Oh, crap. Okay. And do repeat, move, copy. And I'm just going to bring those up, and you can see we're kind of in this weird angle here, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of horsing around here. I just basically want it to look like his hands are resting comfortably. Since he's definitely not driving, just want him to look like he's resting comfortably. So I hit OK. Okay, and this is my image. And then it's going to ask me to select a face. So I'm going to go select here. You can see I have a choice of 3 planes. This is just asking me where I want to set that image on. So I'm gonna set it on the vertical plane. Okay, so the image is there. It's just very small. So again, I'm gonna show you this gimbal really quick while we're at it here. So in this gimbal, you have the ability to move, scale, or rotate any object. So I'm going to scale it. So this is vertical scale, this is horizontal scale, and this is equal vertical and horizontal scale. So along this vertical plane. So I'm going to go ahead and start scaling that up. You can see I have a 50% opacity set on that canvas. You can see in this dialog box on the upper right of the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position this image so that the side view of the vehicle, the side view of the exterior, is where lines up with this this mannequin. So I'm just going to move this over. I'm going to continue to scale it bigger and bigger. This vehicle is going to be fairly small in terms of footprint. I want it to be, something along the lines of I wouldn't say a smart car, but definitely like a Fiesta, like a Ford Fiesta, like a B segment. So it's probably still a little bit on the small side. I want him to have a little bit of headroom to move around. So I'm not sure exactly what the dimensions are of this car. I'm just going by what looks right. And again, because we're going to build this car entirely off of the human scale. And we're going to work from the inside out. So eventually I'm going to do an exterior model of this. So I'm kind of positioning him where he would be, you know, if he were to go through that doorway and sit down in a very comfortable way. And then in front of him, there's going to be enough room for him to place a couple of pieces of luggage. So the bulkhead for that, or where that screen is going to be, is actually going to be way over here, just behind the front wheel. So I'm just going to move it back this way just a little bit. Okay, so and now you can see it's on. This image is on the center axis, so I can just build right off of the sketch. So I'm going to save it again. And I also have my reference images here. I am going to bring in that. So I'm going to bring in insert background canvas, not canvas, and I'm going to pull in the rendering that I did last week, just as another reference, another visual reference. And you can see it's kind of at a random angle here. So I'm just going to scale it down a bit, and it's just going to be a sort of a poster next to the model that I can refer to. Having these gimbals makes it really easy and convenient to move stuff around. That's one of the things that I really like about Fusion. So I hit OK. So now I have that in my space. Now, at any time, if I want to turn off these images, I go up into Canvases on the left side here. Open up the expand that, and you can see I have these images, and I can just turn them on and off. So if I'm working on the model, and I can just easily make them disappear. So just to kind of keep things flowing smoothly in terms of data, I'm going to turn off the sketch. I'm going to save it again. By the way, what's really cool about Fusion 360 is that also every time you save it, here I'll show you really quick. So this is your sort of data storage file cabinet, if you want to call it that. So every model that you do shows up in this data storage cabinet, and you can see AV Rideshare Interior 2. Every time I save it, it saves a separate version. So I'm on version 4 now, but if I ever needed to go back to a previous version, it's all right there. I can just open up whatever previous version I want. So it's really good for organizing your files and being able to go back to previous versions. So that's a good bit of information to have. Okay, so let's start building. So the next thing I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about the menu across the top here. These are your tools for building. Fusion actually combines solid modeling with polygon modeling, and some other modeling modes. The mode that I use the most is under form. Form is, these are polygon volumes. These are polygon forms that that you start to pull shapes out of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a plane. Okay, and I'm going to go into the direct side view. I'm going to start. We're going to, like I said, we're working from the human out. So I'm going to start by building the seat. So we're going to start with this. We're going to be on the vertical plane, and I'm going to create a small square plane that is roughly the dimensions of the bottom of the seat. I'm going to move that I'm going to angle it to align with his buttocks, and the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, so when you're, I'm actually going to turn off the sketch for a minute here. Let's just make things go a little smoother. So this is going to start as a cross section of the bottom of the seat, and so in polygon modeling you have what are called you have faces. So that's a face. You have edges, which are the boundaries between the faces, and then you have what are called vertices, which are points. So that's a vertice right there. Edges, faces, and vertices. Those are in every polygon modeling program. That is the principle. How it's done is really, in each program is really more about the interface. So I'm going to grab this edge here, and I'm going to say let's try that again. Okay, so using the modify window here, you get a bunch of different things you can do with these elements. So I'm going to double click on that edge. I'm going to go to modify, edit form. Edit form is very, very important part of modeling in this program, just in terms of interface. So now I have this full gimbal, which I can move, scale, or rotate in any axis. So what I want to do is I want to take this edge and move it back to where the seat bottom and the seat back would connect. And as you remember, this seat has no separation. There's not going to be any separation between the back and the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to select this edge. I'm going to right click and do repeat edit form, and I'm going to extrude the back of the seat out of there. So right now, again, I'm just working in the side view two-dimensional plane for the cross section of this seat. So to extrude, once I go into the edit form dialog here, and when I'm ready to extrude, I select the edge, and then I hold the Alt key. Actually, let me back up a little bit so you can see. I'm going to hold the Alt key and pull another face out of there, and you can see how in between there it's gotten webbed. That's because I'm in the smooth view. So I want to go to there's always two modes in polygons. There's the smooth view and the poly view. It'll become more apparent as I progress here. But I want to get into just the polygon view. So I'm gonna just to get rid of that, I'm gonna hold Alt and hit the number 1, Alt 1, and that goes to smooth view. So now you're just looking at the pure polygons. If you want to understand the principles of polygons, just to illustrate what polygons really are, I'm going to draw a curve, and I'm going to select the axis that I want to draw the curve on, and I'm going to create some. I'm going to create a curve. Okay, so you see how between those points I have these handles, right? What polygons are, polygon modeling is essentially, the polygons are straight lines between those points. So if I take these handles and I'm not going to get into that, but basically if you were to strike a straight line between each of these points, that's what polygons are. So you're going to be in smooth view or in polygon view. You're going to be switching back and forth. When I'm just starting to construct things, I like to be in polygon view, and then as I start to as I start to want to define the surfaces, the form and the shape and the surface, then I go into smooth view. And a lot of times I'll just go back and forth. So that's essentially what polygons are. They're the control points between curves. If that's any way of explaining it. So let me turn that off and then go back to our seat here. So I'm in polygon view. I don't need this edge right now, so I'm going to select it and I just hit delete. It's gone. What's really cool is when you delete delete these faces, it's very intuitive. You'll see. So okay, so I'm going to edit form again, and I'm going to select this this point here. I just want to give it a little bit of a bend here, and I'm going to repeat edit form, and I'm just going to extrude out another. This will just be for the head, kind of headrest area. Okay, and the other thing I want to do is I want to change the geometry here. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to go back to Modify, Insert Point. So you'll see with polygon modeling how you organize your polygons is very, very important for what happens to the shapes and forms. So I'm going to change this intersection into something more like this. So when I go into smooth view, if I go back into smooth view, you can see it's become this very soft, curved shape, like you want to see it to be. It's a little too soft right now, but we'll fix that. So now we have basically the here. I'm gonna save this again, just in case we go haywire. Okay, so now we're gonna take this two-dimensional seat and make it three-dimensional. So I'm going to select these faces. I'm going to go back to Edit Form, and I'm going to extrude using the Alt key the same way as before. I'm going to extrude in the horizontal axis, and there we have a three-dimensional seat. Now we do want to make this thing so we want to make this thing symmetrical. So we're going to go to Utilities. Actually, no, we're going to go to Symmetry. And we're going to do Mirror or Duplicate. And we're going to select that object. And then it wants to know which mirror plane. So you can see we have our three planes there again. And I'm going to select the vertical plane. And so now we have a symmetrical object. You can see the green line. When you have a green line running down the center of something, that means it's symmetrical. So now anything I do to this seat on one side will be repeated on the other automatically. So if I hit Edit Form again, and I select that face, or let's select, if I select that face, you can see that what I do on one side is being mirrored on the other. So now, so what I want to do first is get the seat scaled for two people. So I'm going to save it again. Save often. You never know. when it's going to crash. And I also like to save a different, like if I get to a point where I've reached a significant milestone that I don't ever want to lose again, I usually rename the file at that point. Not at that point yet, but I'm going to turn on our sketch again. So what I want to do is first of all, get this occupant moved. I'm going to get this occupant moved to one side of the vehicle. Modify move. And I'm just going to move him outboard. So that his little finger there is not crossing the center line. So we don't want him to hold hands with his passenger. Unless he wants to. Okay. I'm not going to duplicate him to the other side. Actually, no, maybe I will. So I'm gonna do symmetry on him as well. So mirror, duplicate. I'm gonna select. Actually, he's not a T-spline body, so if I want to duplicate him, I have to go back to the solid mode and I'm gonna select all of these objects. I'm gonna go into create, mirror. Select all the objects. I'm going to select the mirror plane. There. So now we have two people holding hands. Okay. So we'll save that. Okay, so as you can see, our seat is nowhere near wide enough for both of these people. So I'm just going to grab these faces. I have to go back to the form mode here. Modify, edit form, and then I'm just going to pull the seat out to accommodate both of these wonderful people. So now, you know what's great is once you've figured all this out, when you do use this data to go back into sketching, you know that you can be confident that your data is going to give you accurate perspective and proportions for everything. So I'm going to hit OK. So now that we have the seat in the right spot, I'm gonna just make these people disappear. So I'm just gonna. Actually, I'm wondering if I can do this as a grouping. Okay, let's try this. So we're gonna create a group. Or create selection set. We're going to create selection set. And under selection set, there's my selection set. So I'm going to select all of these guys and drag them into the selection set. There. So now I can go into the selection set and select them all and nope, that doesn't work. This is a little bit different than speed form. There's a similar create. Let's try rigid group. What does that do? I just want to be able to turn these people on and off without having to select every one of these objects. Or at least I can select them all. All right, well, let's do it the old-fashioned way. We'll bring them back later when we need them. Okay, so now we just have the seat. You can see my screen rotates a lot more freely, and that's because I'm not taxing my computer as much. Like I said, normally this wouldn't be an issue, but because I'm live streaming on Facebook, it's bogging my computer down a bit, so I'm just trying to keep it from crashing again. So I'm going to save it again. Okay, and I also don't really need the I don't need the drawing right now. So we go to canvases, hide the canvases, so we can just really focus on the seat. And I am going to turn on my. I'm actually going to bring in another canvas. I just want to have my sketch in here next to the seat, where I can really look at it. So cancel. Let's do that again. Okay. Let's do this. Let's see if we can just duplicate it. No, let's just insert another canvas here. Insert background canvas. And we'll bring that back in. I just want to have that seat image, you know, the sketch where you're kind of looking back at it. By the way, all of this is doable in just about every Polygon modeling program with regard to having these background images. They all have the ability to bring in a background image. Whether you want to use it on the center line as an actual template, or if you want to just have it in your environment. So okay, so I just want to be able to look at that seat. Okay, and I'm going to turn off the main side view here. So we have that. Okay, let's save that again. Okay, so let's talk about this seat here. Let's talk about polygons. So I'm going to select the object and go back to smooth view, and you can see it definitely doesn't look like the sketch. So as you could imagine, you know, remember I talked about how polygons are essentially control points between straight lines, or you know, they're straight lines between control points. Polygons are straight lines between control points, and so the more control points you have, or the more edges you have, the tighter the bends are going to be. So right now, I don't have any additional geometry aside from the bottom and the back. If I want to have a tighter bend, I have to add more edges. So I'm going to go to Modify, Insert Edge, And so there's two things you can do. Insert point means you can insert an individual edge in a specific spot. We're going to insert an edge that runs around the entire seat. So insert edge. I'm going to double click on this edge here, this group of edges. If I double click, I get the entire group of edges, and you can see this green edge appears, and I can slide it. I can slide it up and down, depending on where I want that edge to land. So, you know, I want the curvature from the back to the bottom to be fairly tight, to be somewhat similar to the back end of the occupant. So, I'm going to put it about there. Hit enter. I'm going to insert another edge. Repeat insert edge. Double click on this edge again. Slide it to the front of the seat, or slide it forward. So, you know, visually, what I'm trying to do is strike a curve from here. If these were control points of a curve, right? This point, and this point, what would that curve look like? And there's a little bit of trial and error, but if I go to smooth view now, you'll see it's starting to look a little more similar to what the sketch is doing. That might have been a bit too tight. So, but then you can also see the front of the seat and the top of the seat are too round. So I'm going to stay in smooth view and I'm going to add those edges, and you'll see it'll be, I think, a better illustration of how this works. So modify, insert edge. I'm going to double click on the center line of the seat. I'm going to slide that edge out close to the corner and hit enter, and you can see how much tighter that corner just got. And it's much more like the sketch. So still not exactly what I want, but one thing I might do, let's say that the back to bottom part, I want it to be a little rounder. So what I might do is, rather than moving these edges back around, I might just grab this one and delete it. And we're back to being very soft, maybe a little too soft. So you can see what it looks like in smooth view versus poly view. So what I might do at that point is just grab this row here. I'm do an edit form. Grab that, and I just move them closer together. Now, if I go back to smooth view, you can see it's starting to look a little more like my intention here. So just move them a little closer together. Okay, and then that's essentially the basics of polygon modeling. The more edges you add, the tighter things get. So, for example, if I start to add, I'll show you inserting points here. So, insert point. I want the perimeter of the seat to be a little more of a square section. So I need to add an edge along the perimeter here. So I'm going to add along this edge here, and you can see that there's when it's red, that means that I've snapped to the middle of that curve. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to keep hitting the reds all the way around. So inserting point as opposed to inserting an edge just means that you're adding the edges one at a time instead of as a complete group. So keep hitting the red center points, and then so if I hit enter, you'll see that the section of the cross section of the seat has gotten a bit more squarish. If I just keep adding edges, I'll show you. Let me just save this again. So if I just keep adding edges, so now that I have a grouping here, I can do insert edge again. And if I just keep adding edges, it'll just keep getting tighter and tighter, more and more square. So you can see how much tighter that just got. That's a little too tight. The other thing you can do is you can actually crease an edge. So if I grab these edges here, and I go to modify crease, then it becomes actually becomes a hard edge. You can also grab that and uncrease it. So if I select that edge again and I go modify, uncrease, and it goes back to the way it was. So now I'm going to look at the sketch, and I'm going to look at the seat, and I'm going to try to get it more like what I'm envisioning. So I'm just going to grab the selection set here, and at least I can just get a quick view of the occupants. I actually think the bottom of the seat is a little far back, so I'm going to grab the leading edge of the seat and grab those faces, edit form, and bring that forward just a little bit. So I'm going to save this again. And I'm also wondering about the back of this seat being a little too high, although I do feel like it needs to have some kind of a headrest. So we'll deal with that. You know, again, that's where you know what you sketch and playing this what you sketch and what you model might be slightly different. So okay, so Facebook's telling me I'm having trouble playing the video. Is everyone still seeing me and hearing me? Can I get another ping? Yes. The Oscar, I'm not exactly sure how tall he is. I'm assuming he's 95th percentile, which is usually around 6 feet. So yes, I would just assume he's 6 feet. I think for our purposes, it's not that important. But just very quickly, can I just get? Can someone just tell me that I'm still live? Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Mazur. Okay, so now I'm going to start to work on this. I'm going to work this seat. I want to get the back of it to taper in a bit, so I'm going to go back to Polygon view. And I'm going to grab I'm going to grab that upper corner. I'm going to repeat edit form, and I'm just going to start to bring that in like the sketch. You can see the back of the seat actually tapers in a bit. And I'm just going to grab these edges here. Like this. I'm going to stay in Polygon view for a little bit. And and just try to block it, just block everything in to where I think it's starting to look like what I'm sketching. So I'm going to edit form again. The front edge of the seat's going to want to curl over just a little bit too. Again, it's all working in polygons is all trial and error a little bit to get the forms just right. But once you get used to manipulating polygons, it's pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to see what I got here. Okay, starting to have a bit more finesse to it. Okay, so now I want to start getting that dip in the middle. You can see that on both the bottom and the back of the seat, there's like this dip. I'm going to go back to Polygon View, and I'm going to save this as a precaution. Okay, I'm going to just turn off the canvas for a minute just to keep things flowing. So I'm going to add some more edges. Modify, insert edge. This edge, I want to make it parallel to the center line. So what I do is I go back to edit form, and then I can use the scale tool, and I can click on the gimbal for horizontal scale right there, and you can see there's a number 1 in the dialog box. That means a scale of 1 or 100%. So I'm going to turn that to 0, and then that becomes parallel. So that reminds me. So another thing you can do with Fusion that's really nice is, let's say you want to create a cube. Or let's say you're given a set of dimensions. So let's say I want a cube that's 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. Okay. So as I'm building the cube, you can see there's numbers showing up on the corners. If I want a specific dimension, actually this is set to inches for some reason. Okay, so let's say 36 inches cubic. All right, so I'm just going to type 36. I'm going to hit the tab key. It goes to the other dimension. Type 36. Hit the tab key again. See, now there's a 3-dimensional box. I want that to be 36 inches tall, so I hit 36. There's a 36-inch box, and if I go to Polyview, there it is. Okay, so that's just so you know, you can type in very, very specific dimensions for your objects. You can also measure things. So if I want to, let's say how high is the back of this chair? I can go to inspect. I can hit measure, and I can hit from 1 to 2. It's giving me a dimension of 27.6 inches. So at any point in time I can measure what I have and see what I have. So all right, so back to sculpting the seat. I'm going to edit form again. Actually, no, I want to insert another edge before I do that. So insert edge, double click on the center line. I'm going to do that. So now I have a nice structure to start creating this dip. So I'm going to take these components here. Now I'm going to go to Edit Form, and I'm going to start to bring those down. But I also want to bring them forward a bit because I want to start to create that sort of dish in the seat. So I'm going to bring them forward a bit so that dip actually becomes part of the protrusion in the center. So I want these occupants to have kind of a concave area where they sort of nestle into. So the same goes for the bottom of the seat. I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to pull that up a bit. So there we have this sort of raised area that keeps the occupants from running into each other. I'm going to take this part and bring it forward a little bit so that actually I just need to bring this forward a little bit so that so we have a nice consistent raised area. Okay, and then I actually want to bring the leading edge back a little bit. Back and slightly down. Okay. So I should probably give the occupants a little bit of a raise on the side of the seat as well, just to keep them from falling off the far side of the seat. So I'm going to bring that up and forward. You can see that keeping it in polygon mode really helps align things. So so if you see any real twisting polygons, you'll know. If you see any bad surfaces, just turn it to polygon view, and you'll see if there's polygons that are twisting or not lining up very well. So now we have a bit of a shaped seat here that looks like it'll comfortably accommodate a couple of people. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back to Poly View, and we'll see what we have. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to have at this moment. It's starting to look more or less like the sketch. So let's just turn the sketch back on, and yeah, I'm looking at this upper right sketch, and it's more or less starting to look like the sketch. Now, in the sketch, it looks like the area between the seats is actually dipping versus raising, and I actually drew a section line representing that. I actually think, and again, this is working in 3D, working to the human. I actually think making it raised in the middle is probably better because obviously it's going to keep people nestled and positioned in the proper spot on the seat. One thing I do like, though, is I like this idea on the lower left image of the seat wrapping over the back of the car, because it kind of, again, gives the impression that the seat is attached to the back of the car. So I might go ahead and start to do something like that. So let's see. I'm going to go back to Poly View. And what I might do is create another edge along the top here. So insert edge, or yeah, I'm going to insert edge. Double click on this range here, and then slide it up back here. And what I want to do then is take this whole row and extrude it back. So I'm going to do an edit form. Select that edge again. Nope. Okay. Hold the Alt key and pull it back. And let's just see what we have here. Okay, yeah, not exactly what I had sketched, but we'll get there. So, okay, I'm gonna save it because it's going haywire again. Okay, so I'm gonna rearrange the polygons a little bit so that we get more of that the quality of the sketch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to Weld Vertices, modify Weld Vertices, and here I'm gonna actually merge some vertices together. Actually, before I do that, let's do this. I'm going to insert a point, and I'm going to insert a point here, and then I'm just going to get rid of this guy and this guy, and I'm going to take insert point, and I'm going to take this section, instead of going up and over, it's going to go back and around. Now I can select this and delete it. So you can see what I'm trying to do is get the polygons to flow up and over. So now if I go to Smooth View, you can see it has much more of the quality, this wrapping up and over quality that I want. I'm going to turn on the canvas again. Yeah, it's starting to look pretty good. So I'm going to save it again. Okay, just going to take one more look at this seat here. We're getting pretty close to where I'm getting happy with it. So it's feeling a bit thin to me. So what I might do is I'm going to add another edge at the very bottom. I want to have kind of a harder edge at the bottom and a softer edge at the top, and that just sort of makes the seat feel like, ooh, it's not going. Okay, somewhere we've got a non-four-sided polygon. So that's another thing that you should know about polygon modeling is most of the time you want to try to keep your polygons at 4 sides. Sometimes in certain transitions you may need to do a 3 or a 5-sided polygon, but you risk having some unexpected results. So let's try it again. Why is it not? Okay. It's not allowing me to do an edge all the way around, which means that somewhere there's a non-4-sided polygon. So I'm going to just insert edge around here. You know what, let's just do this point by point. I think it'll be easier. And because I'm building this edge so close to the bottom of the seat, it's going to visually thicken that seat a bit. So okay, so now when I go to smooth view, you can see it's got a bit more of a thickness and a body to it at the very bottom. Okay, so I'm not going to spend all day perfecting this seat. I want to start laying out the rest of this interior. So I'm going to save this. Turn off the canvas for a little bit. I'm going to save this as a different file name now. So save as interior 3. I'm just reading, Mazda, I'm reading your comment about parametric approach. I'm not sure. I've never done parametric modeling, so I'm not sure what you mean by that, but this is pretty much standard polygon modeling. You know, where you start with a plane or you start with a basic volume and then you start pulling, extruding polygons out of it. So you know, it really depends. So so now I'm going to go in. I'm going to bring back the centerline image. Okay, and what I want to do is create that bathtub, you know, create that floor that the car is sitting on. So I'm going to create a plane. I'm going to select the horizontal plane, the ground plane, and I'm going to create a square shape that generally represents the actually I want to make sure that plane is aligned at center, so let's try that again. So you can see I can snap to points in the grid, so I'm going to snap to the 0 point and create my plane from there. Okay. So one thing you can do is you can also create symmetry internally. So if you have an object that's already the same on both sides and crossing at the center line, you can do internal symmetry, mirror internal. What that means is you just select one surface on one side of the center line and another surface on the other side. internal symmetry also works. You can do circular internal, which means you can mirror on multiple axes, which is great for things like wheels. So in real time, you could build one spoke, and all 5 spokes or all 7 spokes will be modeling at the same time. So I'm just going to take that plane and move it to the floor underneath that seat. Keep that floor nice and low. This thing's going to have a very thin battery. Okay, modify. Edit form. I'm going to get this thing scaled a little bit shorter. So I want the leading edge of this floor to be just behind the front wheel. Pull that forward. Pull that forward. And I'm going to make sure I'm in Polygon view. So now I'm going to create that bathtub that the car is sitting in. Make sure if you do extrude off of a symmetrical object, you got to select both sides, or else it won't weld the extrusion together. So I'm going to extrude the forward surface where the screen is going to be. And I'm also going to extrude the back wall. Oop, I didn't hold the Alt key. Let's see. There we are. Just got to get it close. I'll get everything aligned later. Just see where we're at in terms of overall width. Yeah, pretty good shape. Just going to get it aligned more or less with the side of the seat. Okay, and then I'm going to start to create the frame of the door. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to grab this edge here. I'm going to edit form. And I'm going to extrude a section out of there. And the side of that is going to align more or less with the sketch, you know, where the side glass is. And this is going to come around. And get that rear wall aligned better with the back of the seat. Because I want the back of the seat to kind of wrap itself over. Okay, and then I want to complete that door frame. So No, you know what? I better go to direct side view here so I can see what I'm doing. This is where working in Gravity Sketch is going to be really nice. I'm trying to get this nice thick to thin going. So to complete that shape, what I'm going to do is use what's called the bridge tool. I'm just saving here. Okay, good. Didn't crash. So what I want to do is complete this shape by bridging from here to here. So I'm going to use Modify, Bridge. And then I can select this edge and this edge. And I hit Enter. There's a surface. Oh, I didn't want all of those extra edges, so I'm just going to delete those. Okay, I'm going to do some more editing here. Just trying to get the door frame to align more or less with the side of the seat. So you can see that the pillar is kind of splaying out a bit, so I'm just going to grab the pillar and just start to taper it in a bit. That's not the edge I wanted. And start to get a nice transition going around here. You can see how when you're in Polygon mode, you can really see if your polys are starting to get twisted. That's when you start getting wonky surfaces. So So now we kind of have our cage here. And I'm just going to see what I have really quick in smooth view. So I'm going to turn on my seat to smooth, and turn my cage to smooth as well. And you can see it's generally feeling like the sketch. What I can do is I can tighten up that interface by adding some more edges. So modify, insert edge. If I double click on this guy here and place one towards the front, I can tighten that up. If I insert a point here, you can see that gets tighter. Same thing back here. And if I insert an edge here, yeah, it's starting to feel more or less like the sketch. I'll get into the specifics of that later, but so one thing I can do, if I turn off the canvas here, so I can add some thickness to that. So if I go to modify and thicken, I can I'm gonna make it, let's say let's make it 2 inches thick. Let's try that first. Okay, so now you have some thickness to it, and I can go in and I can uncrease these edges. Uncrease. Uncrease. Now I have, kind of a nice section that looks like the inside of a car, the pillar that goes inside of a car. And if I hit insert, let's say I want to have a nice little crease along the midpoint of that pillar, I can go in and add that. So now it looks like there's a bit of structure there. It might be a little too tight. There, that's better. Okay. So, really I'm doing this for layout purposes, but let's just see where we're at with the occupants. So if I select the occupants, so now I have a pretty good sense of scale as to where these people are. You can see that they have, pretty good, they have plenty of room in front of them for placing a few suitcases. I might go ahead and build some suitcases, or I could pull them in off of GradCAD. I have what I have here is something that I can use for sketching, which is really cool. One thing I might want to do is take away the symmetry on this cage, so that when I'm looking at it from this one side, I don't have this pillar in the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the symmetry. So I'm going to go to symmetry. I'm going to say clear symmetry. I'm going to clear the symmetry from this cage, and I'm just going to get rid of the pillar. It's going to delete all those surfaces. Actually, I didn't want to get... overdid it. All right, let's try it this way. If I just select this edge, I can hit unweld. I can unweld it. That'll separate it that way. We'll do the same over here. So what we're going to do is separate this into two separate bodies. We hit unweld. Okay, so if we go into our bodies list here, if I double click on that, now this pillar has become a separate body. I can just delete it. Okay, and then then I just need to fill in those holes. So I'm going to use the bridge tool, modify, bridge. Oh, I didn't want to, yeah, so I want to bridge this and this. Oh, I gotta change my bridge settings here. Bridge gives you the option of how many faces you want. I want one face, not three. So, bridge. So there, it gives you a surface that's welded to the other surfaces. So I just need to do the same over here. Repeat bridge. And let's just see what we have here. Okay, so I've got to crease this edge here and this edge. So these edges have to be creased. Crease edge. There, that's better. There, it's a much more pleasant environment to sketch over. Okay, so I'm thinking that having this extra edge in here is a bit distracting, so I'm going to delete that. That looks much more pleasant. So I'm not going to go through the exercise of trying to perfect all of this because I can. What I really want to do is get. I'm going to do this thing again in Gravity Sketch. It's going to go a lot quicker because Gravity Sketch is so intuitive. And I'll live stream that as well at a different time. But you'll be able to see it. If you don't catch it live, you can always see it. You can just play it. So, all right. So. I just want to lay out where that screen is. So I'm not going to capture today exactly the sketch. I'm just trying to get the main elements of the package. So I have just a better sense of the volumes to sketch over. So I'm going to go ahead and create another plane. I'm going to create it on the forward surface, and it's just going to be just generally in the dimensions of the screen. Get rid of this edge here. I'm going to make it symmetrical. Use the internal mirror tool. And I'm just going to bring this back. And I want to give it a bit of that curvature. So I'm going to grab this edge here. As I push that edge forward, you can see it starts to get that curvature. And then I want to extrude the sides of that screen out of there. So modify, edit form. I'm going to extrude. I didn't hit the Alt key. So I want it to kind of wrap around like this. And I'm just going to try to, I'm going to flatten out a little bit just to get it more like the, actually, you know what? What I'd really rather do is get the rest of the interior to have more of that wrapping quality to it. So I'm just going to shove this all the way forward to line up with the forward of the edge of the car. And then I'm just going to get these guys here. Slide those forward. So now I have that similar wrap on the forward surface. So if I want to, I can give that a different finish. So if I want it to be a screen, I can go ahead and if I select the object, under modify there's appearance, and then you can select, you'll see a menu come up in a second here. I'm going to say glass, smooth, gray. I'm going to drag it up into here and drag it over to the object, and there you have like a sort of transparent gray. But I want to make it actually black. So short absorption distance. Actually, I'm just going to take this all the way to black. Done. Okay. So now I have a pretty good volume to sketch over. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring our mannequins back too. Just going to bring these guys back. So I'm going to start to wrap this up for today. So you can see I have a pretty good idea of what the inside of this vehicle looks like. It generally represents the sketch. So if I take these two guys here, let's move this around. Edit canvas. I'm just going to slide this over. So the next time I open this file, I can kind of just look at it. Okay, let's edit this canvas. Edit canvas. So I haven't, I haven't got it to where I would take it into VRED and render it, but that's. There's basically two ways I can go with this. One is to take this model and I can take this model and I can sketch over it, and I have good perspective. I have everything scaled correctly, or I can use it. There's three things I can do actually. The second thing I can do is I can use it in sort of like a user experience storytelling. So if I'm more interested in communicating user experience and less interested in communicating the design or the style of it, I might put like a white shader on it, or I can turn off the wireframe. If I go under display settings, I can't do it right now because I'm on the second monitor, but I can turn off the wireframe and just show it in a nice silver shader or a nice white shader. And if I want to use it in a PowerPoint to sort of describe the user experience, I can just use it. I think this level of model is more than acceptable. However, if I want to take it to the next level and go into a full styling exercise, I'm going to probably spend another day or so on this model. But I'm going to get there a lot quicker modeling it versus trying to do more of these Photoshop renders. Because once I have the data looking pretty good, I can take it right into VRED or Keyshot and spit out some pretty nice images with texture mapping. I can make wood look like wood. I can make leather look like leather, and then I can just add a few touches here and there in Photoshop. And the more complete the data is, the less time-consuming it is in Photoshop. So I really like to invest the time more in the data versus trying to wrestle out some Photoshop rendering. So the rendering that I did last week, I really wouldn't have done that. I would have gone straight to this. I'd spend another day or two on it, get it looking really nice, and then from there, then go into VRED, and then just put some finishing touches in Photoshop. So what I'd like to do for sometime this week, what I'm going to do is, when I have some free time, is I'm going to do this whole demo over again in Gravity Sketch. And I'd like to just do the remaining demos in Gravity Sketch. I really like the interface, and what I'm excited about with Gravity Sketch is the ability to be in the space as I'm designing it. I can't do that here when I'm looking at it on a monitor. But in Gravity Sketch, I'm in the space with these people. And Gravity Sketch is really well set up to do this quickly. So that's my plan. I'm going to get it a bit further along in Gravity Sketch, and I'm going to record that and put it up on Facebook Live so you guys can see that. Just keep an eye on Facebook Live. I'm going to open it up to questions and comments. Like I said, I'm going to wrap up the demo part of it. If anybody has questions or comments, please type in the chat window and ask away. I'm going to wait for a few minutes here. As I'm waiting, just to talk a little bit more about creating forms and shapes in exteriors. Polygon modeling is really the same thing on the exterior. You're really defining the main surfaces, and you're creating those transitions by how close or how far apart your edges and vertices are. The closer together your edges and vertices are, the tighter your bends, the tighter your edges get. So, okay, Mason is asking, during design reviews at Ford, would a sketch model like this be used to show process, or how it would be used in a design review in a real-world studio application? Well, as I said, I would be totally happy to use this model as it is with in a sort of user experience discussion, not so much a design theme discussion. So right now I'm really just trying to lay out the architecture of this. It really depends on the context of the model. So I guess there's the user experience aspect, but also if I were to, let's say I'm communicating with an engineer and I'm trying to help lay out a package, right? This might be a great model to help people understand the package, the sense of space. So even at this early stage, I think a model like this has a lot of uses, but so let's say in Sheila's case, this could be perfectly fine for explaining the user experience. So you build something like this, you build a very basic model of the outside environment, and let's say I go into appearance again, and let's say I want to put this like sort of white shader on everything. So let's say plastic white. Let's say I put a white shader on everything. Yeah, that doesn't really work. I'd probably just stick with silver. What you could do is you could just take that silver image. You can see how it looks when I'm rotating. You see that the wireframe turns itself off. There is a way to do that, so you can spin the model without the wireframe. But that's a pretty good indication of the user experience. You could also go into Keyshot and you could have it cast shadows and stuff like that. I'll get into more of that in future demos. But Vincent has a question. When you go from the polygon view to the organic view, it's called smooth view or polygon view. Are the curves auto-generated, or are they based off of the polygon input? Well, it's based entirely off of how close or how far apart those polygons are. So, for example, let's talk about this roof rail here. So you can see I have a pretty broad curve through here because the edges are far apart. But as the edges get closer together, the bends get tighter. So that's how you control how big a curve you want or how tight a curve you want. So if I want to add, let's say if I add an additional edge here, right? If I add an extra edge there, you can see what happens. I get a much tighter transition. So it is entirely based off of the polygon input. What kind of the curve you get. Like as I said before, think of each of these edges, each of these points as being the same as a point in a curve on Photoshop, right? So or Illustrator. So in Illustrator, you create a curve by putting these points down, right? And then Illustrator creates this curve between the points. It's called vector curves, right? Polygon modeling is a three-dimensional version of vector curves. It's the three-dimensional version of Illustrator. If that helps illustrate how polygons work. So when you're in polygon view, you're looking at straight lines between points. When you go into smooth view, you're looking at the curves between points. And it's how close or how far apart those points are that defines the curves. So hopefully that explains it pretty well. Any other questions or comments? I think everybody's good. Well, I can stay on a few more minutes if anybody else has questions or comments. this has been a lot of fun. This is really how I like to work. I think it's a great way. Working in 3D is a great way to just very quickly hammer out some of these more complex issues regarding space, regarding proportion, how different objects interact with each other. It's stuff that's really hard to do in a sketch. You know, a lot of the thinking that I do happens right in 3D, right in CAD. You know, there's certain things that there's certain things that take longer to draw and there's certain things that take longer to model. So if it's less time for me to model it, I'll just go model it. Okay, I'm sort of answering Mike Herbert's question here. Mike Herbert says, using this for design theme development, how much would you edit this model in CAD versus sketching? Well, if my goal is to deliver a complete rendered interior rendering, right, I'm going to spend more time in data right now. It's still to the point where I'm going to get a lot farther quicker than in 3D than to keep sketching. Now there may come a point where I'm like, okay, what do I do here? Maybe I want to create some variations on the door panel, or I want to create some variations on the way the screen intersects with the bulkhead, you know, or yes, I might do a few overlays, sketch overlays, just to figure it out, but that's not something I would present. Really, what I would do is get the data a bit further along. So if I'm in a sort of a theme search phase, I will sketch it. If I'm more into a theme, a design execution stage, or I'm in this sort of working things out stage, I might work directly in 3D. It's really case by case. It's really case by case. So, good question, Mike. You'll have to figure that out for yourself. It's really case by case. So. Any more questions? We got a few more minutes before I sign off. Derek, my pleasure. Thank you for attending. That was hopefully everybody got a little something out of this. So very good, very good. So yeah, with that, I think I'm going to sign off. Have a great week, everyone. Like I said, look out for a repeat demo in Gravity Sketch, because from there I want to just stay in Gravity Sketch. It's a learning experience for me, and I'm like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing what I can do in Gravity Sketch when I'm thinking spatially, when I'm in the space with these people in life size. I think that's just going to be a really cool experience to be in this space and see what it's like. So. And you'll be able to see through my eyes in Gravity Sketch. That's what's another thing that's really cool about live streaming Gravity Sketch is I can actually show you what's in my eyes, what I'm seeing. So that's pretty cool. Mason, no more questions. Okay, Julia, Hazard, yep, great. All right, well, thanks everyone. It's been my pleasure. Have a great week. looking forward to meeting with each of you one-on-one, and looking forward to seeing what everybody comes up with on Friday. So take care, and signing off.